419 Patriots, and welcome to the M44 Patriot channel, your source for citizen soldier skills and budget preparedness. I want to take a moment and touch on why we, as militia, should talk about gear, and also some reasons that we shouldn't. This is meant as a preface to a coming series of videos on various aspects of gear and some examples and some what I carry, stuff like that. So why should we talk about gear? First of all, if you remember back to the Combat Triad video, if you don't, there will be a link in the description to it. I mentioned that Tiger Iron, an internet personality, believes that the Combat Triad of skills, mindset, and tactics is more like a stool than a triangle. And that if the stool were the Combat Triad, then gear would be the paint on the stool. It's important, it's just not as important as all the other stuff. You can be effective with old, cheap, beat-up gear. Hell, you buy a Mosin or a Mauser or a lot of the older rifles, and a lot of them will come with at least an ammo pouch and some other stuff with it. You could take a Mosin Nagant, pull it out of the Cosmoline, remove all of it, take 30 rounds of ammo, 35 rounds of ammo, put 30 on stripper clips in the ammo pouch that comes with it, put the sling that comes with it on it, and put the other 5 rounds in the magazine, and be able to take that gear and the cleaning kit. You want to make sure you tuck that in the back pocket of your jeans, and you can put the oiler in the other back pocket. Put some cleaner in one side and put some oil in the other side. You could take that out and you could go fight, and you could be effective if you know how to use the weapon and the equipment and all of that. More modern gear can make us more effective, but it can also hinder us. I absolutely would not just run out onto a battlefield with a Mosin and a fistful of ammo. There's other stuff that I would take with me. I mean, that's what I carry at the moment is an M44 carbine with 39 rounds of rifle ammo, and the cleaning kit that came with it. I replaced that here recently, but there for a while I was carrying the issue cleaning kit that came with it. I had the little bore guide and the cleaning rod under the barrel, whole 9 yards. And I would have no qualms taking the equipment that I have, plus that M44 carbine, and going out and fighting. Especially if I had either someone to back me up with either a semi-auto rifle or some kind of shotgun, or maybe even another Mosin, to help cover me while I'm trying to reload or do whatever I need to with the rifle. Or adding a pistol onto my equipment belt. I would have absolutely no qualms with going to war like that. Honestly, going out and fighting Taliban right now, no problem. There are certainly better things that I would rather take, but I am confident in my ability to use that equipment because I know it, and I understand its limitations, and I understand its effectiveness, and its what it's able to do, and better, I understand what it can't do. The difference between being a cheap ass and being on a budget is that on a budget, you're looking for quality, and trying to not spend, say, $500 on a load-bearing vest without any pouches or anything else, or $1,500 on just a rifle, when you could have taken that same $1,500, gone out and bought an SKS for maybe $400 or $500, put I don't know, about $100, $200 worth of ammo with it, maybe some stripper clips, and still done a lot of the same things that you're going to do with a $1,500 AR. You may not be able to shoot as long before you have to reload, but you are more than capable of going out and fighting with an SKS. And and being just as effective as someone with an AR. Stock magazine, stock everything. Just pull it out of the Cosmoline and go fight. So, I mean, being on a budget does not mean you're just going to go be cheap and just go buy a bunch of airsoft gear and then take the airsoft gear and expect to go fight with it. That's being a cheap ass. Being on a budget is going out and getting some old surplus gear, as modern militaries are switching to more modular systems. Surplus gears like everywhere. You can go down to a lot of surplus stores and get a full set of Alice gear for less than $100, maybe about $100. So even if you went out and you had maybe a $600 or $700 AR, one of those cheap entry level DPMS ARs or whatever, bought some mags, filled them up with ammo, and then filled the Alice gear with it, that would be perfectly okay. It worked fine for us for like 20 or 30 years. The only reason that we switched to the Molly gear is because it's much more modular and you're able to put pouches all over the place and make it's much more configurable to missions, especially as the nature of warfare changed in conventional conflicts from being more central to moving with vehicles and mounted in a Humvee as opposed to being light infantry and walking everywhere you went. So, I mean, during Vietnam, you didn't get hauled around everywhere in a Humvee. You walked. You might have been able to get moved in the back of a truck, but once you got out to where you were going to fight, you walked to wherever you had to go. And you had to carry everything you needed to be able to walk and move with your equipment and ammo comfortably. But a lot of that gear still works just fine. Budget does not mean that it's bad either. There's this prevailing idea that if you went out and bought a $250 Maverick 88 shotgun, that it's going to somehow suck because it was a $200 shotgun, or a $350 rifle. There's lots of stuff that fits under $350, even modern rifles that are very well made. You could take a Ruger American, you could put a red dot scope on top of it. This would not be my idea of a good fighting rifle, but you could take it and you could go fight with it if you understood what you were doing and what its limitations and capabilities. You can take a lot of different rifles. That Ruger Gunsight Scout, that's not super expensive. That's probably a $700 rifle, somewhere in there, I think. Street price. Used. If you went and got a used one, it'd probably be even better. Put, a red dot on it, up on that front rail, and get some extra magazines for it. You got a 308 battle rifle. It's bolt action, but I mean it's a Mauser action. It's very nice Mauser action. You could actually put a long range scope on that. Probably sit down with it on a bipod. Probably do pretty well out to about 500-600 yards. I could totally see it if you knew what you were doing. I could see it. But you could even put like a 4X marksman's optic on it and put yourself in a group with a bunch of people that have 308 battle rifles, and you have that 4X scope on there, and you can reach out and touch somebody while the people with the battle rifles or whatever they have are able to fight a little more close in. If you have a variable power optic, like a 1-4 on it, you could even drop that down to a 1 and use it as kind of an ersatz red dot. It would not work nearly as well as a red dot, but you could use it for that. The polymer magazines that Ruger makes are also, I believe they have their feed lips are aligned for stripper clips, and you can just stuff the clip down through the action and load them. So if you wanted to carry most of your extra ammo on stripper clips and only a couple of extra magazines, you could do that. Would still be able to load the magazines through the rifle, or just pull it all out and load them manually before going out. So, I mean, most of the focus of this channel is on doing things with weapons and equipment that don't break the bank. That is the primary focus. The idea is that you could take $1,000, you could go out and you could buy all the equipment that you needed, and a budget rifle and some ammo for it. You could go train and you could go be effective for less than $1,000. That is the hope. And part of this is to teach and explain concepts so that you can understand and learn the limitations of things and understand what help to guide both in gear purchases and in weapon purchases, and how to employ your gear and your weapons effectively on a battlefield, and understand what they're not able to do, what they're not capable of. That is the hope and the goal of this channel. There's a very big emphasis on needing to look high speed, low drag, and run around with a $2,000 AR-15 or AK, or a SCAR, or insert rifle here. All of them are expensive. If you buy them off the shelf, they're all freaking expensive. And take that and run around in a big plate carrier with a bunch of molly pouches, PALS attachment molly pouches, an assault pack, and all this fancy stuff, super expensive handgun. And you don't need to. You can if you want, and you can certainly be effective that way. But you need to understand what it's meant for and how to employ it. And I mean, you can take low speed gear and do a lot of that fancy stuff that you see like Travis Haley and Chris Costa doing with an AR, and take $50, $100 worth of gear and do a lot of the same stuff. You're not going to be able to take 6 shots to your armor and still be able to get up because you don't have armor. Or you might have an old flak jacket, an old flak vest, the PASGT vests. You might be able to take a couple of smaller pistol rounds. You can take a shotgun blast to one and survive. I even saw one survive a direct hit from 357 Magnum with hollow points, which is most likely what you would run into, and did not penetrate. Whoever was wearing it would have hurt, but it wouldn't have killed them. They wouldn't have had to deal with the injury. A lot of this gear and a lot of these concepts on using this gear is predicated on there being some sort of advanced medical support behind you. You take 6 shots to your armor, more than likely you're probably going to have some sort of blunt trauma internally, and you need to be able to get to a doctor or someone similar and have them sorry about that, to be able to get to a doctor and have them look at you and know with modern medicine and modern techniques that you're okay. Honestly, I would prefer to deal with an actual gunshot wound than have to worry about, is my buddy bleeding inside and I can't tell. With an actual gunshot wound, you can actually treat that in the field, no problem. Yeah, you're more likely to immediately die from that risk, but on the same token, if you don't have access to that heavy medical care because the hospitals are backed up with people after a disaster, or the hospital maybe no longer exists. I know it's against the Geneva Convention to attack a hospital, but the hospital might not be there anymore, and that is a realistic concept that a lot of people build a lot of their gear thinking, well, it's okay, I can take a couple of hits to my armor and I'll be okay. And that may be true, but you can't know because you can't see. And by all means, wear armor. Armor is good. Armor is helpful. But understand that armor has that risk, and that a lot of this gear is built around the idea that you've got resupply, you've got people coming up to assist you, you've got transportation, you've got all kinds of assets that military people have, but we don't. You have to be able to work with that. a lot of this high speed gear is built that way, and a lot of the low speed gear is set up so that you can carry everything that you need and not worry about, well, am I going to get resupplied in 3 days? If I don't, what might happen? Because you can go out for a week and not have to worry about being resupplied if you have a big enough pack and can carry the weight. It's gear is constantly an evolving thing. You're constantly should be reevaluating your effectiveness with the equipment that you have. Make it so that if you add something to it, it makes you more effective. I went out and if I went out and bought a flashbang pouch, and I had, because for whatever reason I had access to flashbangs, I don't. But if I did and started carrying flashbang grenades, that of course is going to make me more effective because I have the capability to carry flashbang grenades, smoke grenades, stuff like that. And those kind of tools are going to make me a more effective fighter. But I mean, at the same time, if taking the ammo pouch that's on my gear and replacing it with the same ammo pouch or the same style of ammo pouch from somewhere else, that's just wasting money, for one thing. But two, it's probably not making you more effective. It's just changing how your gear looks. Some of this stuff that's out is pretty cool, but a lot of this stuff is really, really, like, everyone makes a single or a double M4 mag pouch. Everyone makes stacked M4 mag pouches and shingles and stuff like that. Everyone makes one. Whoever makes one makes a good product and makes it the cheapest is what I would get. Going out and being, well, this one is $50 for this piece of equipment, and this one is $75, and they're the similar quality. You're wasting your money if you go out and buy the $75 one just so that you can evolve your gear. But at the same time, if you're going from a complete closed flat pouch to maybe an open top pouch, and you need access to that open top pouch a lot faster than a closed top flat pouch is going to give you, that's evolution of equipment. By the same token, if you notice that all of your ammo keeps falling out of your gear because of the type of pouch that you're using, so you replace it with a closed top pouch that will better retain your ammunition, that's also an evolution of your gear. But getting the same thing that's just more expensive or buying it again is not necessarily evolution of gear. Gear needs to be, it not only does it need to be able to evolve, but it needs to be flexible. That's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of general purpose pouches, because I can take them and I can do a lot of different things with the same pouch. If I don't need, if I take a general purpose pouch and I put some different gear in it, well, I don't need that gear on this mission, so I pull that out and, well, actually I do need, some sport smokes and a couple of flares. I put those in that GP pouch instead. That gear is flexible. And having gear that's as flexible as possible, that can move and evolve with your mission without having to be removed from the vest or the gear, that makes you more effective. For one, because if it's secure on there, first of all, it may be a pain to remove, or you may not even be able to remove it, depending on what it is. And having that gear be flexible makes you able to tailor your gear to your mission. Now, granted, Molly and the PAL system was created so that you could take a set of M4 pouches and say, well, I'm not carrying an M4 on this mission, I'm carrying an M14, or I'm carrying a Scar Heavy, and remove those pouches and put on some M14 mag pouches with M14 magazines. That is, making the gear flexible to your mission. But at the same time, if your mission doesn't require you to move the pouch, don't move it. You can use general purpose pouches and utility pouches, those big saw ammo pouches, stuff like that, for a lot of different things. I wouldn't even move them, or remove them from the gear, because then I had to put it back on later. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense, because if I don't put it right in the same spot that it was, I might have issues. So, I mean, the gear should be flexible and multi-mission capable by changing things on the gear, but excessive change is not necessarily good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, gear flexibility is both in the ability to change the gear as needed, but also the ability to change the contents of the gear without excessive changes. To be able to change contents of pouches and stuff like that without having to change the pouch. Um, there's a lot of different ways that you could go about approaching flexible gear. Molly and Alice and things like that are obviously the obvious ones. Some of the European systems are not so flexible, but I've had really good luck with a lot of the old Soviet grenade pouches, being able to cut those liners out, and you could use that as a GP pouch and put maybe survival kit in it. You can maybe put a smoke grenade in it, or even use it as a grenade pouch that you can just hang on your belt. That would be doable too. It's beyond this. It's important. I'm going to try and start wrapping this up because I'm coming up on half an hour. It's important that we be able to talk about gear, but there's some reasons that we shouldn't talk about gear. Gear can very quickly become the main focus of preparing and militia readiness and stuff like that. Skills and mindset and tactics are the main focus, not gear. And it gets expensive really fast to just constantly dump money into gear and weapons and stuff like that. It doesn't need to. There's no reason for it. Granted, some stuff is expensive. Radios are expensive. Consumables are expensive. But there is no reason that you need to go out and spend $100 on a magazine pouch or on this or that. Or if it's not worth it, there's no reason to go waste your money like that. Like I was saying earlier, you could take a mag pouch that's $25 or $50, same pouch, made of similar qualities. If they're the same pouch, buy the $25 one. As long as it's the same quality, that helps avoid the expense. Makes it very cheap, well, cheaper to do it that way. The biggest thing is to avoid making gear and weapons and things like that the primary focus. The primary focus is consumable supplies. To have them, if you're purchasing something, before you go buy another ammo pouch, just to have another ammo pouch, stop and think for a minute. How much ammo do you have? Would that money be better spent buying ammo? Or how about smoke grenades? Could you maybe go get a couple more sport smokes or a couple of smoke grenades in general? Maybe a couple of road flares, and or maybe some food for your gear or to keep in your house or your truck. Or can you maybe take that money, put it with some other money, and maybe go take a class, learn how to use your rifle? That's skills. Could be tactics too. Work on your mindset. This gear is the paint. It's the paint. It's not as important. Don't make it the main focus. So some closing thoughts. It's important to understand different kinds of gear, what it can do for you, but it's also important to understand what it can't do. It cannot replace proper training. It cannot replace skills. It cannot replace tactics, and it cannot replace a mindset to prosecute the fight and win. Gear should only ever make you better and should only ever make you more effective. It should never harm you, ever. As always, if you found the video helpful, give it a like, comment your thoughts on why we should or shouldn't talk about gear, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends. Also, check out our Facebook page. There's a link in the description, and give us a like on there to keep up with news about the channel. Be safe and watch your six.